Welcome to Creative Japan, the podcast where we explore the vibrant world of artists and makers united by a Japanese connection. Join us as artists from around the globe discuss their work and share their creative journeys. I am your host, Emi Takagi Stapler, a Japanese-American quilter and designer. I discovered my own artistic voice, one I describe as modern meets heritage, when I found myself pulling from my Japanese culture and upbringing in my designs. I believe that by listening to other stories, we can grow as creatives and find new sources of inspiration. Get ready to be immersed in a rich tapestry of stories that can ignite your artistic voice here at Creative Japan. Yokoso, welcome. I am pleased to have Satomi from Satomi Quilts here with me today. She is a first-generation quilter who was given the gift of quilting from her late mother-in-law. The first quilt she made with her mother-in-law's assistance changed her life, and she has been making quilts and handmade items ever since. She is originally from rural northern Japan, is a Bernina Ambassador for the Q16 sit-down long-arm machine, and currently lives in Connecticut with her husband and 2 children. Welcome, Satomi. I'm thrilled to have you here, and I appreciate you taking time. I know that especially this week is super busy, and I'm looking forward to learning more about you and your work. To start out, can you tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you grew up, and where you're currently living?
Okay, my name is Satomi. I'm Japanese, and I grew up in Akita Prefecture, which is located in northern Japan on the main island. And currently I'm living in Connecticut in the U.S.
Okay, fantastic. And how many years have you been in the U.S.?
About 13 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it starting to feel like home?
Yeah. I love living here, so I really enjoy.
What in your life journey brought you to quilting then? Were you introduced to it prior to moving to the U.S.?
I didn't know about quilting at all until I met my mother-in-law. So, she's Lancaster, she's a quilter, and she's from Lancaster. She was, unfortunately, sadly she passed away last year, but she's from Lancaster County in Pennsylvania. So she taught me how to quilting after I had second son, because we moved to Connecticut around the time, and then winter is so long. I had 2 little kids at home, so it was great that I learned something new, and surprisingly I really enjoyed.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a gift. Like she was giving you something to fuel your creativity and your needs as a young mother.
Yeah, and then I didn't have any tool. So she gave me her scraps and some fabrics, needle, scissors, rulers, old sewing machine, everything so I can get started.
Even though you weren't introduced to quilting until you met your mother-in-law, do you feel like anything in your upbringing in Japan prepared you for quilting? Did you have any exposure to textile arts, or did you do any did you have any creative hobbies?
No, nothing. That's the funny thing. So that's why I was really surprised. I really loved whole process. Like before becoming a mom, I was doing accounting work for the company. So nothing.
So it was love at first sight. Just
the first. So I started with hand applique, and then so she taught me, I learned traditional quilting first. So she taught me one by one, I could see what she's doing, so I could learn from her, so she can give me some advice. So first applique piece, that's probably changed my life. Yeah.
Okay, so you entered from like handwork, not from using a machine then.
No, I did hand applique, hand quilting first.
Okay. And, just following you on social media and seeing your website, I mostly see what I assume is machine pieced work. Do you still practice applique as well?
You know what? I just don't have enough time doing like handwork since I started business. And then I do machine applique time to time, but I really miss doing the, handwork.
Yeah, no. So something you still enjoy, but is a time factor now then.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you enjoy most about the quilting process now that you've been quilting for, I believe you said over 10 years now? What fuels you to keep going? What part of the process?
I definitely love selecting the colors for the quilt for each project, because I feel like, the color of the quilt, what kind of fabric you use, what kind of color you use, like reflect who you are, who I am. So I can express myself doing that. I like everything about quilting, but especially selecting the fabrics and colors.
Okay. And that brings me to another question. So I did notice, I believe it was last summer, you have a Robert Kaufman, like a curated fabric bundle. So that came to my mind as you were talking about colors. Are the colors in that bundle what you would consider maybe your brand colors or your favorite colors that you like to create with?
That was a really exciting project for me. But, so many choices, like, overwhelmed because I could choose anything.
Yeah.
And then, but I just picked a little bit of everything that I like. And then I really liked the result after I put all the colors together, and then I really liked the result. And then, that's became the bundle.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily only create in those colors. Those were just colors that you were drawn to and that you have used in different designs then?
Yeah. So when I selected colors, usually I have a project and then I select the colors and fabric for the project. So it was totally like reversed. I had to pick first, like I have 20 colors, and then I had some project in my mind, but I just didn't want to use for only one project. So make sure that I can use for different projects. Yeah. So it was a little bit difficult, but at the end, like I mentioned, like I really liked the result. So that became the bundle.
When I see your work described, you categorize it as modern traditional. So not all of my listeners are quilters, and each quilter may have a slightly different definition of what that is. What does that mean to you? So how does that define your work?
You know what? I'm still don't know exactly what modern is. So because it's so wide range. And then,
yeah, absolutely.
So since I started learning from traditional quilt, like hand applique, hand quilting, and I learned a lot because my mother-in-law kept all the magazines like 20, 30 years. So I went through many, many magazines in the past. So I learned from the visual from the magazines what traditional quilts look like. And then that's how I started. Then I discovered on social media or internet, there's a people called modern quilters or modern quilts. And then I really loved it because color is more bright and unique designs, and people can make anything. So I have still traditional side in me. That's my backbone, like a basic, but I really love the, creating new stuff, something cute, something more, colorful. So this is kind of my way of describing modern traditional.
Yeah, no, I actually think it's a good reflection of your work because, I'm in a number of modern guilds, and I've done a lot of modern work, and there's the more kind of art side of modern, right? Where it's more geometric or it's more negative space, things of that nature. But by adding the word traditional, which is where your foundation came from and where a lot of your influence comes from, I feel like it works to describe your work. Whereas, it's your modern color palettes and your modern take on your traditional foundation that you're influenced by. So that brings me to your quilting toolbox. So I know that I don't want to say you're a newer quilter because it seems like you hit the ground running, right? You haven't been quilting for a very, very long time, but enough that you probably have some favorite tools or some essentials that you wouldn't be able to live without.
Right. Can I pick up a few? Because it was so difficult
so toolbox.
to pick.
Maybe there's 3 things in there. Maybe there's 10. Like what's in your toolbox? You cannot go without.
You know what? I don't know. This is count as from the toolbox, but like a quarter, like a seam allowance, like a tape. Is it
yes.
Diagonal seam. What's that called? Like a tape.
Oh, the diagonal seam tape, like a cluck sew, like the washi tape. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
That I have to have it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then one thing doesn't really fit into my toolbox, but the knee lift for the sewing machine.
Absolutely. You can't go back. Once you have it, you cannot go back.
No. Those 2.
Okay. Those are the two.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, if you have those 2 things, the other tools can change.
Right.
We talked about the curated quilt binder, the colors that inspire your work, but that you usually design first. So where do you draw your inspiration for your quilt designs?
Usually like things around me, like in a daily life, things that I see, like sometimes, for example, like during the pandemic, I have the mailbox design called Sending You Love, because this is just mailbox design, the heart on it. And then I made it because during the pandemic, we couldn't go out anywhere, in the beginning. And then I even didn't want to go to the post office because it's such a little space and there's so many people trying to get in and only one person could get into the room and everything. So, and then I realized, there's a little flag on the mailbox, which I had no idea what that was since I'm living in the US over 10 years. And
they don't have that in Japan. Yeah.
No.
No.
So I asked my husband, what is it? And you just put the flag up and then you put the mail for the outgoing mail so the mail carrier can pick it up. Wow. So that's the inspiration because I had to ship patterns to the customers so I could do from home.
Okay. No, I love that story. So it's like as you were learning things in a new country, it became an inspiration for your work. Oh, fun. So that brings us to your latest quilt pattern. So you're releasing a new pattern this week. So by the time this podcast airs, it will be available. And before I give it away, just can you tell the audience a little bit about what that pattern is? I believe there's 3 different versions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The pattern calls patchwork mugs. Use patchwork like a big mug, but we're gonna use the squares to make a mug, and it's all patched. So that's it. That's the title. It describes the pattern, but there's 3 versions. One is tree. I add tree to the mug, and then also heart and start. And then, that pattern includes only one size, which is large throw, but those 3 versions, will be in the pattern.
Okay. Yeah. So the mug is the same, but there's a certain space in the mug that is interchangeable, right? Different. Yeah. You can choose or actually you probably could mix it up, right? Do a medley on the same quilt too, if you wanted to.
Yeah.
you said that your surroundings inspire you. So where did the inspiration for this latest quilt pattern come from?
Well, I have already few mug quilt patterns, and then I love having coffee in the morning, so mug is must have for me. And then, also this time because I made a mug again, but why made it patchwork version? Because I had so many fabrics, a little bit left. Yeah, like, fat quarters, fat eighth, like, I had a little bit of everything, and then I just wish I could use. So I came up with the idea, and then just a mug made by just squares will be a little bit boring. So that's why I did those 3 heart stars.
Okay. And I did see like on your social media as you're carrying the quilt top that you were surrounded by snow and pine trees. So is that possibly where the pine trees came from?
Well, yes, because I'm living in Connecticut and in the woods. So we have trees everywhere, all the angle. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, I thought I'm going to just make trees, and then, there are so many possibilities I could do. So I decided to go with one size, but 3 versions. And then since I love, heart quilts, so I did heart and then stars for the traditional, like people love that.
By the time that this releases, it will be available for purchase. So can you tell us, is it on your website? Do you carry your patterns through distributors?
Yes, you can get the patterns on my website and also Etsy shop for digital version. And then also distributor will carry. I'm gonna have to give them information, but hopefully the local quilt shops can carry the pattern too.
All right. So the next question I had was, so I've been sewing on Bernina machines for roughly 15 years. So, once you own them, you start to get their newsletters and emails. I can't remember how many years ago you were featured. I think you've been featured on multiple emails, but I saw you on one of their newsletters. So can you tell us a little bit about that partnership? Because again, you've only been quilting for like a little over 10 years and you're a Bernina Ambassador. Like, wow.
Well, thank you. So when I started quilting, I wasn't using Bernina sewing machine yet. I just started with the my mother-in-law's sewing machine. Then I purchased smaller machine, but there's a free motion feature to the machine. So I was using the machine a little while, but since I quilted a lot, the machine is failing, even I sent out for the cleaning, but didn't do anything anymore. So that was the time 3 years ago, 2021, 2020, something around that time. It was the time I had to purchase new sewing machine. And then the quilt shop, local quilt shop was the Bernina dealership. And then, so I went there. I know I wanted to buy something a little bit nice. But there are so many machines, really high end. And then since I'm quilter, I was almost going for the bigger machine. I have B480, so which is kind of small for the quilters. But the throat was, for me, it was big enough compared with the one I had in the past because it was such a small throat I had. So I saw B480 and then I saw another one, really big one for the quilters edition. Then I saw Q16, which is sit down, a long arm model. And then they're all good. So, but since I do free motion quilting, I was looking at the Q16, but the price was quite big. So I couldn't go for 2 machines, but I was thinking of it. So I'm going to use the B480 first and see, this is going. And then the shop owner told me when I purchased the machine, you should apply for the ambassadorship for Bernina. They're asking for the application right now. So, okay. And I'll do. And I did for Q16. And then how lucky I was.
Oh, wow. So you purchased the 480 and then you applied for the ambassadorship and then you got the Q16. So you were able to get both.
Both.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It was kind of long story, but ended up like that. So I could be ambassador for the Bernina and then I could work with them. I could use the machine and share my experience.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And speaking of ambassadorship, you filmed, I think it was in Denver. You got to film as a Bernina ambassador recently on TV. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, last summer I went to Denver, Colorado to shoot 2 segments for Quilting Art TV show. So that was because they need somebody who can use Q16. So, and then I came in. So I got the phone call like, are you interested in? Yes.
Yeah.
So it was, so I came up with the 2, projects and it's submitted, make sure that they're, something they can use. So I flew there and then did 2 segments.
And where did that air? Is that available online?
Yes, you can purchase on the show whole series, Quilting Art 3000. That's it, the number. Yeah. And then you can purchase online. It's on my website. Yeah, Quilting Daily website. Yeah, Quilting Daily website. Then you can purchase the show. And then also there is a free, you can download free information, the written patterns in there. So you can, you can see what you need and you can watch the TV, how I did or how other people did. Yeah. There are a lot of amazing, art quilters. Yeah.
How many different ambassadors or instructors were there?
Me and one more lady was the Bernina ambassador and the host of the TV show. She's ambassador too. And then, so the others are all like artists. Yeah. Like show like a winning quilters. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. I will definitely have to check that out. So bringing us back to winter and snow, it's on your social media that you're also a snowboarder. So I think that's really cool. So is it a hobby or do you do like competitive or what's your background with snowboarding?
Oh, just totally hobby.
Yeah.
I can't do any cool tricks or anything.
You're not on the half pipe.
No, I wish I could, but I'm going to break myself immediately.
So being from northern Japan, did that hobby start in Japan then?
Yes. So I did ski first, grew up in a kind of area. I did ski from 6 years old to 18 because the school PE was skiing during the winter where I grew up. So I did that, but I didn't start snowboarding until I became adult. Yeah, so I did. Then I stopped doing it since when I left Japan, maybe 19 years ago almost. And then now, we have 2 boys. They're, getting older. So I just wanted to teach them how to, just get started. Yeah. Yeah.
So then you got back into it?
Yeah. So that's how I got back into snowboarding again.
Neat. So I'm curious, like snowboarding is a big part of your life and quilting is a big part of your life. Do you find any similarities or connections between them?
I thought that was totally different. Like, because quilting is, work, something I love to do. And I can think of something about quilting 24 hours. But snowboarding is like make my mind free from those, thinking about quilting all the time. So kind of refresh my mind. But at the same time, when I taught boys, at the time, 9 and 11 years old. So, that was kind of taught me something. It's kind of relating to quilting because teaching wise, because two kids, different skill levels, different way of learning and in speeding, learning speeding is so different. So sometimes it was test, for my patience. Yeah. So that's something I learned teaching boys, the snowboarding because, now I, teach quilting to the students. Everyone has different mindset. Learning speed is different. Working speed is different. There's different background. So, that taught me something through the snowboarding.
Okay. No, that's interesting. So not a direct connection, but it serves as a way to refresh and clear your mind. So you can kind of approach quilting with a, fresh perspective. But also now that you're teaching, it has kind of given you some different perspectives for different skill levels.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another question, actually. So we were talking about your pattern design influence, your most recent pattern. Do you typically design for a certain skill level or do you release patterns for different skill levels? Like one pattern might be beginner, one pattern might be intermediate. Do you have a skill level in mind when you design?
Most of my patterns are for advanced beginners or confident beginners.
Okay.
Yeah, the quilters, not just started, but maybe they made quilts 2 or 3 by themselves. So maybe they want to do something more not complicated, but, more work to do. But that's the kind of my target.
Okay.
But also,
your target audience.
Yeah. But also any skill level of, quilters can hopefully enjoy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because when you're looking at usually not beginner patterns, although sometimes advanced quilters will grab those for baby gifts, things like that, right?
Yeah.
When they need something that will be finished quickly. But yeah, advanced beginner will apply to a lot of different skill levels. A beginner, it would be the next step for them to go to. And then people that have more experience still reach for those projects all the time. All right. So that brings me to my last question or feature in the podcast. And this is something that I plan to do with each guest. And that is a learn Japanese component. So this could be a word. It could be a definition of a Japanese craft. For some of the interviews, it could be a phrase or a mentality, that comes from Japanese, that influences your work, or it could even be a regional word that might be unique to where you're from in Japan.
So I can say in Japanese, correct?
Yes, please.
So this is a phrase called nanakorobi yaoki.
Oh my gosh, I love that one. That one. Yes. Tell us what it means.
Yes. So it means fall 7 times, stand up 8. So even though I fell 7 times, try 8 times, maybe next time will be better or successful. So, don't give up.
Yeah, no, I love that phrase. So
yeah.
I'm happy you brought it up because, it's like a Western version of don't give up, keep trying, right? You may be defeated, but you don't know when the next success will be.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm thrilled to have had you here to learn more about your work. And before we wrap up, I will be adding this to the show notes, but if you could just verbally tell my audience where they can find you online.
My website will be www.satomiquilts.com. And also you can find me on Instagram, Satomi_quilts. Yes. That's it.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you so, so much for your time. And I look forward to seeing what you have ahead in your pattern releases.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me today on Creative Japan. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on future releases. Leaving a positive review also helps me to reach more listeners like you and to interview more fantastic guests. For more information about today's guest, check out the show notes of the episode. And for behind-the-scenes content and updates, follow me on Instagram at Emi & Co Studio or visit my website at emiandcostudio.com. Until next time, stay curious and keep searching for inspiration.